What's up, y'all? TBrown31 here, back with JaboctheGreat. Welcome to another episode of The Last Word. The NFL season concluded last night with the Lions and the Vikings. This one was probably one of the most anticipated games of the season, of course, playing for number one seed, heading into it, division on the line, number one seed on the line, this rivalry. Huge matchup. Didn't necessarily turn out to be the way we thought it was going to be. We know we probably would have picked the Lions, I think, speaking for both of us here. But yeah, Lions in the end dominated this one dominated this one 31-9. Not really too much to say, to be honest with you. I want to get your thoughts on it. But for me, this one, once again, just proved how good the Lions are. You know, I said it before. I think they're the best team in the NFL. They finished tied with the Chiefs for the best record at the end of the season. And the only thing I take away from the Vikings in this one, Sam's got to be a whole lot better in the playoffs. I understand he was under pressure a whole lot Sunday night, but end of the day, he's got to do better with these overthrows and these bad passes because early on, they could have taken the lead like multiple times over.
Yeah, I think having picked this game, I'd have picked the Lions in a narrow victory. I thought this would be a shootout. In the beginning, it was kind of just like a chess match, right? He had some really good defensive stops on both ends, especially by the Lions. I mean, the Vikings were knocking at the door multiple times, very close to the end zone there, but just couldn't punch it in. And the Vikings were doing decent enough to hold the Lions' offense back. Ryan Flores, I think, did a great job in the first half. Held it to 10-6 at halftime. But after that, they had a big chance to score again or held to yet another field goal. It would be their last field goal. And then Jahmyr Gibbs just decided, I understand it now, I guess. And it ended up with 140 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, a receiving touchdown as well. He did not have a passing touchdown. It felt like the Lions kind of crumbled, or not the Lions, the Vikings kind of crumbled a little bit. The defense couldn't hold up after the Lions kept the pressure up in both halves. So yeah, I thought this would be kind of the game of the year. I thought it'd be a big offensive shootout. Both of these defenses are good. I just thought that, kind of with what it was, we'd be in for a big offensive shootout. Instead, Vikings just kind of couldn't get it going. Sam Darnold, 18 for 41. Most of the time, if you say a player is turning back the clock, it's a good thing. I think Sam Darnold did that in a bad way in this game. Just could not hit anybody, throwing way over a lot of his people. I think you sent me a text of like, if all of his receivers were like 10 feet tall, they'd be winning right now.
Yep.
So which is true. So yeah, not a whole lot to actually analyze on this one. I think the Lions came out, struggled for a little bit. Vikings defense showed why they're a playoff team, and the offense unfortunately just couldn't really get it going. So yeah, Vikings got to make a lot of changes on offense. Lions look pretty ready to go into the postseason. Should have David Montgomery coming back before their first game, I believe. So this would be a pretty fun, I think, playoffs for both these two teams. We'll get to what we think about the Vikings first game in another video soon. But yeah, I thought I was a little disappointed by the way this game went. I really enjoyed the defensiveness of the first half, but I expected this to be a little more back and forth, and the Vikings kind of bowed out in the second half.
And of course, with them finishing number one in the NFC, getting that bye, you're going to have more time for David Montgomery to get healthy. Maybe they are, bringing it back a little bit early, but look, end of the day, I think you kind of got to do what you got to do. I mean, you either way, you're only going to have a few games left in the season regardless. It's when to go home. So, if they win the Super Bowl, I don't think it'll be that big a deal. You'll have a long off season to celebrate and rest up. So, with that, it is kind of funny. You look at the result for the Lions and you look at the result for, say the Chiefs, who again finished number one, 15-2, best record in the AFC. Look at the result for them against the Broncos, who punched their ticket to the playoffs. It was a whooping. Obviously, Chiefs, they rested pretty much everybody important. But it is funny. Like, I was surprised they offered literally no resistance. And, when you look at the AFC as a whole, obviously your best two, 3 teams, Bills, Ravens, Chiefs. But, I mean, right now, the only team that I would be, not worried about it at all, probably the Steelers, maybe the Texans too. But I mean, you look at the AFC West as a whole, they finished pretty strong. Chargers at 11-6, Broncos at 10-7, barely keeping the Bengals out of the playoffs at 9-8. So I mean, the AFC, much like the NFC too, I say top to bottom looks pretty good this year. The NFC East, just obviously you don't get the Cowboys in this season like you did, the past 3-4 years. Commanders kind of take their spot. The North, of course, basically the AFC West, and the NFC there. Everybody's pretty strong. The South is the South. It kind of exists, but Tampa Bay, they improve on their um, winning their division 4 years in a row now. They improve on their record from last year, going up to 10-7. And then the NFC West, really weird for a lot of the season. And the funniest part, Niners, they finished 6-11. Of course, a ton of injuries there, but when you look at how things kind of shaped out, pretty good season. Kind of a lot of surprises there. But at the end of the day, I don't, outside of like the Bengals, I don't really think any team got shafted overall. Dolphins, they had injuries all year. The Colts, they were kind of a mess all year. Back and forth. So I think the best teams got in. Teams that deserved to get in, they did. So I'm definitely excited for the playoffs, though.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be fun. The Bengals situation is a little unfortunate for them right at the end, but also at the end of the day, you got to win more games earlier in the season. You can't count it all on a late push. I think Joe Burrow just said that in an interview with Cam Newton as well, where he was like, you don't want to be scraping at the gate,
Yeah.
as the playoffs come around, because they did their part. They made it to 9-8. They won out the way they were supposed to, and then the Dolphins lost. Tyler Huntley, and then could not get it done against the Jets, which is Dolphins are pretty banged up. So, but at the same time that we realized Dolphins are going to lose this one, so it doesn't matter if the Bengals won or not. It also, the Broncos were on the cusp of beating the Chiefs 38-0 or something like that. So it really was just kind of put to bed. The Steelers or the Chiefs rested their people. Broncos came out ready to be sure that they put that losing streak behind them, and punched it back in. Have a tough first opponent, because they fell so much. Once they were a lock, and then they kind of slipped below the Steelers and Chargers here. But I think this is still pretty fun. I don't really think there's any teams left out. The Seahawks, it could have been fun, but I think in the NFC, every team that I would prefer to watch in a playoff game is there. Um, Seahawks can be fun, but the Rams have been a little more, I think, feisty and energy filled as the season went on. Seahawks, not as much. Falcons definitely would have preferred the Buccaneers for them, and our Panthers did their job at keeping the Falcons out. Buccaneers did their job as well. They beat the Saints, so Falcons wouldn't have wouldn't really been playing for anything there since they had lost the Commanders the week before. But I think that this went the way it was, or the way it should have been at the beginning of the season. I would have maybe said, I would like to see the Cardinals in the playoffs because of the way they were playing. But as the season went on, I don't really know. I mean, they did like whoop the Niners, but at the end of the season, it's crazy to see the Niners finish fourth in that division. But overall, I think I agree. I think this is gonna be fun. Everyone that's in, I believe, is pretty much the teams that should be in. Don't think anybody really got robbed. Bengals can make the case for that, but they did it to themselves. Started really poorly and then got it back together. So I think this is the way it should be.
Yeah, when you look at those teams that did finish at the bottom, the Niners, they're going to come back next year. They'll be fine. As long as they can pay guys keep paying guys that they had to pay, not having injuries, Niners will be back fine. Hearing rumors of Shanahan might be out, this, blah, blah, blah. That's not happening. Um, so that's not really relevant. But you look at these other teams, in the NFC, specifically the Giants, that was unfortunate for them that, you know, they finished third, maybe assuming Cleveland doesn't take a quarterback, I'm assuming they would still be able to get a QB there. Um, but obviously, you do still want that number one pick, to try to get that leverage, but they didn't get it there. New England, especially, though, they fall all the way to four over in the AFC. And maybe, I'm not going to say that's why Gerard Mayo got fired. And personally, I don't agree with it. I don't understand him, Antonio Pierce, like bad teams, first year, young QB Aiden O'Connell, and then Gardner Minshew for Antonio Pierce. And then on the other side for Gerard Mayo, Drake May, a rookie. Like I just don't really know what you want them to do. I only agree with firing a head coach after 1 year if they're a complete like clown show. Like Urban Meyer, the Jaguars weren't good that year, but he got fired mid-season. because he was being a clown. Like the stories with him, kicking his players or in the bar after Thursday night games and stuff like that. Like that's why he got fired. Freddie Kitchens back in 2019 with the Browns, that little mini dream team all star team that they had. Like he was. It was between him and Baker, really, but beef with the media, all kinds of nonsense going on. The Myles Garrett situation, like that's probably why they fired him, despite them going like 6-10, 7-9, something like that. So I just don't really agree with it. And these teams, they were right back in the same spot last year. So I mean, I don't know what Vegas. They're picking 6. I don't know what you really want them to do. So I don't really agree with the firings. I think it's stupid, but they'll move on. These other teams here, kind of in that top range, the Browns, I don't think they'll go quarterback. Looks like they're sticking with Deshaun. Jacksonville, they fired Doug Peterson. He had been there longer, obviously. It's unfortunate how that kind of ended, but I think this year, even before Trevor got injured, this was kind of the nail in the coffin for him. The Jets, possibly moving on from Aaron, and then Carolina, New Orleans, Chicago is kind of that interesting spot. A lot of history with the Bears and the Panthers, of course. And then for the first time in like 20 years, the Saints actually finished last in the division. We tied with them, but I don't know how the tiebreakers work. We finished ahead of them in the standings, but we still get to pick higher than them in the draft. Not sure about that, but I don't care. I'm happy with the way Bryce Young looked against the Falcons. So, I really think for all these teams that are kind of at that bottom, I mean, I think there is light at the end of the tunnel. My biggest concerns would probably be the Saints, just because aging players, the salary cap issues they seem to have every single year. The Giants probably, again, they'll probably get a quarterback if Cleveland doesn't take one. But maybe you want to more leverage at number one with Dayball and Joe Shane coming back. Maybe now. I don't know how that works out next year. And then the Titans just fired their GM, so Titans have just been kind of dysfunctional since that 21 season where they got the number 1 seed. So I'm just not too sure about what's going on with them, but they're definitely probably going to give it a quarterback at number 1, unless they take Travis Hunter being the best player in college football. We'll kind of see.
Yeah, I think this is going to get really interesting. The Titans and Browns are definitely a weird spot. I think the Browns should probably take a QB. A lot of mock drafts had them taking one, but they seem to be set on sticking with Deshaun. I also saw something recently that maybe Kirk Cousins was linked to them. That feels like a stretch. I need more context on that one, but I'm not sure that what the Browns will be doing. I would take a quarterback with the way that the Deshaun Watson situation went last season, but I don't work for the Browns, so we'll see what they do. Titans will probably take one. Feels like they had too much going on last year with Mason Rudolph and Will Levis to sit back and let that happen again. Will Levis had moments where he looked like he could, improve and learn, but I don't think it's going to work. I do, unfortunately, also think that whoever they take is being thrown into a fire. Maybe they come in and the Titans make some moves this offseason to try to get back to that 2021 flair they had, but they really kind of tanked themselves, gave away all their good pieces, and now that GM's gone, it doesn't look amazing. The Giants won at the wrong time. I would have said that quarterback would be the easy solution for them. I think them sacrificing Daniel Jones was pretty clear that they were trying to go for a quarterback, and then they won at the end of the season. Drew Lock turned into Superman and won them a game. Did not need that from him, but obviously, as we said, NFL teams don't want to lose a game regardless of what's going on. Maybe the Giants get fortunate and the Browns don't take a quarterback, and so either Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward or someone else that they're looking at is still on the board, or they go for Travis Hunter if the first 2 teams take a quarterback and leave Hunter on the board. We'll see where how far Hunter falls, kind of based on team need. Patriots, you don't take a quarterback there, so I think if Hunter gets to 4, he goes to the Patriots. I also don't really like the Gerard Mayo firing or the Pierce firing. I think neither one of those makes sense. You don't give them enough time to set a culture. You don't give them enough time to really work with a roster. Gerard Mayo was in a tough situation with essentially a rookie. Jacoby Brissett started for a little bit, but you have a rookie quarterback that comes in and starts playing well, but you got a lot of other things that you need to fix. You got to let him develop. And Antonio Pierce, I think that both of them played well at certain points this season, but having a coach in his first year and going, here's Aiden O'Connell, here's Gardner Minshew, good luck, buddy, is not a great way to end up firing a coach. I think you got to give him a little more than that. And like I said, I think both Minshew and O'Connell had good moments this season, but those are obviously not the situation you want to be in, and they had some injuries going on. That's weird. Jacksonville, I think Doug Peterson probably had to go. You finished 4-13 in that division is pretty bad. Somehow not last. The Titans held on to that one, but I think with that roster, even with some of the injuries they had, they could have been a little more competitive because before Trevor went down, they looked really bad at the beginning of the season. So I think Peterson was pretty much on his way out. And then you get the Jets, the Panthers, the Saints, the Bears. I have no idea what the Jets will do. They have confused me all season. So I'm just gonna leave that there. I mean, you could work on your defense again because you lost your defensive identity, or you could try to do something for the offense since you have Grandpa back there behind center, and you got to figure out something new. I don't know about that one, but they'll do something. Panthers, I hope, focus on defense. The Saints are a tough one. Similar to the Jets, it's an age issue, but also like the Saints last year were all old, paying a lot of money or being paid a lot of money and hurt, and so you got a lot of like issues there to hold on to. I also don't really know how we pick above them, but I mean, I'll take that as a divisional rival. And then the Bears are definitely in a tough situation. Clearly, not going to get a quarterback there. That'd be horrible. O-line, I think, would be the easy answer for the Bears. But yeah, I think the top 10 picks will be very interesting. These are teams that have some similar needs and also some very different needs. If the Panthers draft an offensive player with the 8th pick, I'll be really angry. I think we found a little bit of identity at the end of the season. It would be great if we just focus on the defense. But some of these other teams, like the Raiders could certainly use a quarterback if it gets there, but also I think all these teams in the top 10, or really any team in the NFL, would not, bat an eye to take Travis Hunter. It just kind of depends on, like Tennessee, I think you really got to go quarterback. Travis Hunter would help you, but I mean, not that much if it's going to be Will Levis they're into it the whole time, unless Will Levis continues to drastically improve. But it's a weird situation. It's a hard team to get things going in because no one's really there. So I don't really predict that to happen, but I look forward to seeing where these top 10 picks go. And then the 11 through 18, I think are just good teams that mostly good teams that kind of faltered a little bit. Niners having the 11th pick, I think, is disastrous for the league. It's a tough one if they come back healthy and are able to make that pick work, depending on who they keep with their contracts and stuff. But yeah, I think the playoffs are going to be really fun to look forward to, and I think these top 10 picks will be interesting. As much as it would be nice to have the number 1 pick, I'm glad that the Panthers finished above the Saints and don't have to pick first. So that'll be nice. It'll be cool to see what gets to us and what's available, and not be the absolute worst team in football at the moment. So I'm happy to be a little bit on the right track here.